So I think you've got two roles sort of with your current role. One is as the head of PwC, what is it that PwC is committed to? What are you doing as an organization? And then PwC is the biggest of the big four, I think, locally. So how are you helping others to make commitments and deliver commitments? But first, maybe the first bit, which is...
Thanks for that. So at PwC, maybe I'll start a little bit with history. I mean, we started this journey quite a while ago, you know, and probably the biggest thing we did was about a decade ago, buying or leasing the building that we did, which was the first, you know, highest rated eco building in Luxembourg, and we've always had a big focus also on the diversity agenda, et cetera, et cetera. So we've had a history. Back in 2015-16, we actually went through a process where we engaged with our stakeholders, so our people, our partners, our clients, the press, politicians, directors, unions. So some very interesting discussions, and the basis of the discussion was around, you know, what is PwC for you and what should it be, right? So it was a real stakeholder engagement, as we call it now. And we took that and we came from that and we identified 7 key priorities in terms of where PwC really can make a difference and should make a difference. And there were things around things like legitimacy and ethics, health, diversity, obviously, et cetera, et cetera. So we basically framed those, and then we took those and we started to look at what we could do in those spaces, and we evolved that into our GRI reporting, which basically the first year was 2016, and we've been following on that journey ever since, okay? Now, if I then step back, what's happened recently is ourselves with the other big four have basically piloted this WEF IBC initiative, which is about bringing the standards together and trying to have a consistent way of looking at ESG for corporates. So we are following that locally. So we're converting our GRI reporting to WEF IBC. And at the same time, at a global level and at a local level, we've made a commitment to be net zero by 2030. Now, that all sounds great, okay? That all sounds great. But when you look at the reality, it's not easy, okay? So if you look at the reality, firstly, if I start with net zero, I mean, we've sort of looked at our footprint, we've done our assessment, and really started to focus on what we need to do to change. And you know, within the net zero, I would sort of simplify it. There's sort of 3 perimeters, right? There's you know, direct business. There's sort of your immediate ecosystem, and then there's beyond, you know, your clients, suppliers, etc. So you know, looking at our direct business, you know, we don't produce a lot of carbon, right? So actually, net zero is pretty easy to get to. But when you start looking at the mobility challenge of our people, when you start looking at the, you know, the other things that actually impact our business, and then you start going beyond that, that's where you start getting to the net zero challenge. And on my side, I think, you know, we could declare ourselves net zero in like 12 months, right? But that doesn't really mean very much in terms of actually making an impact. So what we are going to be doing on that is really charting that journey in terms of how we get to that net zero across all the perimeters. And then I think if I look in terms of how we've followed that journey internally, you know, if I think of ESG for a company, I would say you've probably got, you know, you've got your strategy, you've got the transformation that you really need to do to get there, and then you've got the reporting. And like many, I think, we've basically started with the reporting. Well, no, we started with the strategy, with the materiality matrix, and we jumped straight to the reporting. And the challenge we've got is really to embed that into the transformation we need to have at a firm level. And that's where we're taking some pretty strong steps in the coming years to really operationalize the things that we need to do and make sure that management is being measured by those, that they're filtering into the business KPIs, and that's passing through. The other point was on clients, right? Let's not forget. Was there anything else on our commitment?
But I did want to sort of, well, congratulate you or acknowledge the fact that you've gone into this much detail, that you know this off by heart, because this has not been rehearsed, is impressive, right? And it should give comfort to everybody. So, we have also looked at what it takes to get net zero. It is not that easy. We will need to do some sort of carbon capture as well, right, to offset. We have to. There's nothing we can do around the mobility challenge and other things. But listening to you speak and going into that level of detail means it's a real serious thing. So I just wanted to recognize that, because I don't think that's something everybody could do. But yes, now clients, if you do want to.
So I think clients again. I think I would look at it actually at 4 levels, right? So strategy, as you may have seen, we've recently launched the strategy brand of PwC, which is Strategy and we've launched that around ESG. So we've onboarded a hugely experienced partner, formerly at EIB, and he was one of the architects of the EIB becoming the climate bank, basically. He's basically coming in and helping us to have a very different dialogue with our clients in terms of strategically what ESG means for them, both in terms of the opportunity and the challenges, right? Then I'd say we then go down to the next level, which is around the transformation that's required. And that's really helping look and see, what are the real business impacts, the business measures that you need to have in there. How do you convert those? And how do you actually make ESG something not simply a compliance or reporting issue, but actually something that's beneficial for the company? And then it gets down to the reporting and the regulation that comes around that. And obviously that's an enormous challenge for our clients. And so, we're doing, as many others, a lot in terms of moving the dial on that and seeing how we can bring value to our clients in that space. The 4th dimension, which I think is really important, is also starting to engage with our clients in terms of how we can be additive to their journey. Right? So to start to basically have the right conversations with our clients from a sustainability perspective, sharing with them what we do, what's important to us, and then talking to them about how what we do can start factoring into their sort of perimeter 2, perimeter 3 sort of reflections. For example, having a conversation around, well, if we do it this way, maybe that's a much lower carbon impact on us doing your audit, for instance, or a zero carbon. So, but that sort of dialogue in terms of how we can actually be helpful to our clients in terms of them concretely achieving their aims as well as one of their key suppliers.
And can I ask, are you seeing a lot of demand for this kind of activity from clients?
Yeah, yeah.
And sorry, and is it, I have to do this, or is it I want to do this from them?
That's a great question. So I think, so in the first instance, what I would say is, in terms of concrete projects, it's still in its early days, right? So there's some that we're now doing in terms of helping companies really look at this, especially at the reporting angle, but really again trying to get back into the strategy and the transformation that's required, because that is fundamental. Otherwise, it's purely a reporting exercise. But where we really do see it is if you look at audit tenders. I would say pretty much all of our major audit tenders over the last 8-12 months, sustainability has been a primary factor in terms of both the proposition and in terms of the dialogue we're having with the selection committee at the end. So that is a sea change from where we would have been before. So I would say it's evolving. It's early days, but the momentum is growing, and it's only going one way. Let's put it that way. In terms of, do companies want to, or do they feel they are compelled? I would say it's probably a bit of both. I think deep down, most people want to do the right thing, right? And I think there'd be very few people running companies today that are there by not doing the right thing. And so there is a desire to do the right thing and be seen to be doing the right thing. On the flip side, as I said before, it's really hard, right? And if I look at the current situation with COVID, you're in a situation where you are managing to the short term in many cases, right? You need to get through these next few months, and you need to get out the other end. And it's, for many of our clients, that's really, really hard. And so actually thinking about, well, let's, look at diversity and let's save the planet and let's do this. I mean, that's just a pipe dream, okay? And can I do that if it's at the expense of getting over that short-term line? And that's the balance I think companies have. Linked to that, there is so much on the CEO agenda today. And this is one massive extra thing that needs to be on there. And it's just the bandwidth in terms of actually making that happen is there. Obviously, I would say compliance in a broader term. When I look at compliance, it's regulation, but it's also the broader demand ecosystem, and we can get to that with your final question maybe. But so I'd say it's a balance, but there is a carrot and a stick there maybe.